Welcome back, everybody, to Dan Has Fun with me, Daniel, doing more Europa Universalis 4. Turn the volume down a little bit in the game compared to the last 3 episodes. I did the first 3 in one big batch, having played around with it a little bit. I feel like it's a slightly better volume balance now. You want to be able to hear me about probably 50% more than the music, and it was about 20% more, so hopefully this will be a bit better anyway. Last episode, we did pretty well, as it happens. It didn't start very well, but it definitely got better. Tweak the volume a little bit more there. That should be about right, hopefully. Yeah, we did pretty well in the end. We ended up in debt. We've paid off our debt. We now have Ferrera's land. It is very smoky because there's some pretty significant devastation. Not as bad as it could have been. So we're going to continue. We're going to go back to speed 4 for now. And we do want to get our new royal marriage with Sienna. There we go. Maybe we'll turn the volume back down to where it was before. It was like a minus 28.1 decibels on my end. There we go. Alrighty. So, we now have to decide what we're going to do next. Are we just going to sit in place? We do have to be a little bit careful because aggressive expansion can be really bad, especially when you have a lot of nations in a small area. So we do want to tread somewhat carefully. But we do have this free diplomats. We have to might as well get them doing something. What do we want them to do? A lot more nations will ally us now because we look a lot more powerful. We are not allying Bosnia because they're going to get wrecked by the Ottomans. We can ally Saxony. Are they at war with anybody right now? No? Okay, well, we're going to talk about it before as an option, so we're definitely going to do that. We're now at 4 of 4. So we're allied to Lüneburg, which is just really more because we had no options. Saxony, Siena, and we do have open borders with Venice. We don't need it anymore. So we can get rid of that, which we're going to do now so we don't forget. Veneration of the Virgin Mary. Yeah, we'll take the 2 papal influence. Speaking of which, we now have enough to do an action if we want to. So there's only one we can't do, which is to give you a bonus stability. We don't need that right now anyway, so that's fine. Other options, we can get cheaper buildings and more tax money. We can get more army effectiveness. We can get more Republican tradition and just better relations with people. They are temporary. They're for 20 years. We can have inflation reduction, lower interest, and corruption, which is one I really do like. I like to utilize that. We can't do holy war because we're not at war. But it does what you'd think with manpower. Or we can have this, where it makes diplomatic annexation cheaper and increases our reputation. Not hugely useful for us. We can also get just mercantilism, 1 mercantilism across the board. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to reduce our inflation so that I don't have to pay admin points to do what I would have to do anyway. You want to have your inflation really at 0 as much as you can. It can really spiral out of control very, very quickly, and you do not want that to happen. So that's what we're going to use our influence on right now. I guess what we will do, because we don't really have a huge amount of other things we really need to do right now, we're going to wait until a month has passed so that we can send a spy over to Venice. If you send a diplomat to do something, you have to wait a month before you can do something else, so you couldn't just spam something with Venice over and over and over and over again, for example. What is interesting is Austria hasn't asked for that land back yet. I'm not sure why, but they haven't. I'm not complaining, but they haven't done it. Burgundy is actually the Pope, which is interesting. I was thinking Mantua is probably our next goal. They are allied, though, to the Pope. Well, the Papal States. And to Switzerland. Switzerland aren't negligible, but they're not really what I'm worried about. The Papal States are far more so. They've absorbed Urbino into their land outright. It used to be a vassal, remember. It's actually very helpful because it has a natural harbour, so you get more trade power. So it is definitely worth going for if you can, but we don't have the strength for that. We're going to try and get a claim on Ravenna, and then if Venice gets adequately curb stomped, we can get involved. I'm hoping that when the Ottomans curb stomp them, they break all of Venice's relationships, so that Siena doesn't end up being at war with us, because they're AI. We don't want that to happen. And an AI will always go for its defensive claim before its offensive ally. Always. So yeah, we'd rather not have to break that alliance if we can. That bull is not useful for us because we already have the Renaissance, because it spawned in our location. And finally, we get to deal with an election, because I didn't know how this government type really is going to work. So the term's up, so we can keep him. If we do that, we lose 30 Republican tradition because of the type of republic we are. He gets better at everything, and then we have a 1 in 3 chance of getting some points for one of the categories. Alternatively, we can just get either a bureaucratic candidate, a diplomatic one, or a military one. They always have 4-1-1 in some combination. Or we can get a relative. So we only lose 12 Republican tradition if we do this, but we get to pick somebody from that, and that person is so good. That is an absolute no-brainer. So, person whose name I can't pronounce, Eraclito Bentivoglio, let's go with that, is a 463. That is very, very good. And at the end of the month, we're going to see what trait they have. I guess, given we have a diplomat doing diddly. Is there anything else alliance-wise that's interesting to us? No. So we're just going to put them on ally friendship mode. At the end of the month, we're going to see what trait we have. It can't get much worse than Sinner. Craven, probably. That's a morale penalty. Oh, Calm's actually really good. It means we get cheaper stability. The other thing that I guess we found out is that, like most republics, when we replace our leader, we don't get a stability penalty. Because that's the biggest issue with the monarchy. When a king dies, usually it all turns into a cluster jam, right? So they lose stability. We haven't had that, so we can just do this now. Get +1 stability. We're now at the maximum amount, which is fantastic. Yeah, not going to complain with that. Actually, what we can do, we're paying right now to root out corruption. We don't need to do that because we're going to naturally reduce corruption afterwards. Overextension causes it to go up, but we're going to have it naturally go down anyway, as soon as these two provinces get officially cored. So we don't have to spend money doing it. Oh, Venice's war ended very, very quickly with the Ottomans, which is a big shame because it doesn't look like much really happened. Yeah, Venice still has all the land. Which is weird, because it's not like the Ottomans were at war with anybody else. I guess the AI just chickened out. France took everything except Calais, which is pretty normal. Castile's at war with Grenada, which is pretty normal. Is anybody backing... Oh, Aragon has got Naples within 50%, so they're not going to have a rebellion there. Austria has Bregenz as a vassal. It's only a 1 province minor, though, so that's not a massive change. Bohemia is eating its vassals. Pretty standard. Nothing has massively changed. The only real difference to normal proceedings is, like I said before, Poland and Lithuania are not allies. Muscovy is slowly eating Novgorod. That's a weird 1 province Denmark in the corner there. Obviously, Denmark is here, but they have the Kola region just by itself over there. That's a bit odd. Not sure why they wouldn't just given that to, like, Norway or something, but okay. Saxony wants a royal marriage. Go for it. So yeah, not a huge amount going on here. We're still going to get the claim on Ravenna. We're just not going to use it straight away. And this is the first time that we've had an ally ask to redeem favours. They want to cash in their 10 favours rather than having us go to war. They want 9 gold. Fine. I'm okay with that. What's our chance of rebellion? So 12 years and 12 years. Interestingly, they have separate rebel groups. I'm fine with that, though. That's okay. Go, little Ottoman ship, go. It's cloth. We can get a tier 3 reform. Do we want frequent elections? That makes it so that we'd have elections every 11 years instead of 12. I don't think that matters. We can actually go the other way around, have 13-year elections. If we do that, it increases our maximum absolutism. That will not come up for probably like 150 game years, honestly, so that's not relevant to us right now. Or we can just go for sortition. The problem with that is you get an election by lottery. The yearly corruption decrease is great, but election by lottery is absolutely awful, because you might as well just be a monarchy at that point, so we're not doing that. So we're just going to consolidate power. So we have a weird 13-year election, I guess, at this point. Very, very strange. That's fine. Get that out of the way. Our corruption is technically growing by 0.00. Big growth. Big old growth. We got our power projection above 25, so we have another leader for free. So like a general or an admiral. We don't have any admirals, obviously. Although, having said that, we can now have ships, because Ferrara is obviously on the coast. That would increase our trading power, but we only have a maximum of 119 sailors right now, because, you know, the province of Ferrara was smacked around. So we're not going to build ships yet. All of our neighbours will have better navies than us, apart from Mantua and Milan, because they're landlocked. So I'm not feeling that yet. This, for me, is more interesting, but I need to try and find a way for the papacy to not get involved. Because the other alternative is to go after Milan. Obviously, that's going to be a much more difficult proposition. We do have way more than enough to claim that now. I might get one other claim just in case. I might try and get a claim on maybe Padova. And then we're going to switch that diplomat to do something else. We have 2 cores now, though. We can afford a building, so what we're going to do is go for high income, make the building cheaper. So now it's only 75 gold to build. And we're definitely going to get that built immediately. We want to try and snowball some money, because we're still a very small nation in the grand scheme of things. We are not a big nation at all, so we do at least want to keep try to snowball a bit of money up. Have some nice water. Trying to eat the ice cube. That would sound really great on the recording, wouldn't it? Gotta stay hydrated. It may not be a stream, but yeah, you gotta stay hydrated. We can invest in the new tech. Now, you wouldn't have seen this here in this run before, but we can invest in this tech now and gain what's called Innovativeness, which just makes things a bit cheaper in general. Probably because nobody else around us, and nobody in general, has actually unlocked this tech. We're not ahead, so I'm going to invest in it. You get coastal defenses, which we're not going to build. That to us is not hugely relevant right now. It does make our navies more expensive to maintain, but we don't have one. So that's a moot point. It makes us more efficient when it comes to trading, and it increases our trade range. So now we have 4 Innovativeness. By itself, it doesn't really do a huge amount. It's making everything 0.4% cheaper, but that will start to help counteract that 5% penalty we have from our clergy. So it's better than nothing. Speaking of our clergy, if we go to our estates, we can seize more land, but if we did that, it would cause the nobility to rebel. So what we're going to do is we're going to summon, which increases everything by 5%. We're going to seize land immediately so they won't rebel. Now we just have to do one of these agendas, and we get to pick. So we can either get Ferrara to have a church, which I'm going to do anyway. We can have Ferrara have a base manpower of at least 4. Or we can try and increase our trade power. This is the only one that's really not that feasible to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with an ability. They want Ferrara to have a manpower of at least 4. there you go. That is it. that is already done. What I might do, because we are pumping out 10 Diplo points a month, because our new leader has a has a maximum score there. I'm tempted to get our focus to go towards doing military. My only reason why I haven't done that already is that we'll knock admin down to 6. But what I'm going to do it anyway, because we're making some good money. I'm just going to get an advisor. An inflation reduction advisor, apparently. So we are going to very quickly go down to no inflation. So we got 10 loyalty, we got manpower. I wasn't doing it for either of those, but we've taken more land. Eventually, we will end up with enough crown land to have a positive effect, but we want to slowly start scalping some land off our estates. The more land they have, the worse it is for us, for many, many reasons. We do have now to pick a new rival, because we just ate one of our rivals and they don't exist anymore. So we can go for Florence, although they are like the one neighbour that doesn't hate us. We don't have a mutual land border with Genoa, so that's not that tempting. And then obviously Milan and Venice. Venice is much, much bigger than us, and they will probably ruin our day. So I'm tempted to rival Milan. Who hates Milan? Switzerland, Savoy, and actually Venice, as it happens. But Venice are going to hate us forever, so that's not that useful. Who hates Venice? Hungary, Bohemia, Milan, and Florence. So even though they are far scarier, I'm actually going to rival Venice, because that will make our neighbours like us more. Florence are going to love the fact that we hate Venice. They're also going to like the fact that we don't rival Milan, because they're allied to them. Milan isn't likely going to like us because we're at war, but they might warm to us over time. But here's the thing. I don't really want to be long-term friends with Florence or Milan, even if the option comes up, because they're in the way. And if we go too aggressively against Venice, A, we might lose. B, they're allied to one of our allies. C, they're allied to the knights, who are not strong, but they're a pain in the backside to get to. So they're really hard to get really good war score against. And if I take too much of Venice, we'll have both aggressive expansion problems, and we'll end up in with Austria, because Austria, most games, they'll start off fairly diplomatically, and they do have a diplomatic leader right now. But usually, they will want to try and take Venice. It is nice, though, that, again, there's some extra flavour for the AI. They will have different personality traits. So, for example, the Ottomans almost always seem to have a militarist as a personality trait. So they are going to be far more aggressive, and this red land is what they're looking to take. I've tried to tell the game, because obviously I'm a human, so I have different opinions. I've tried to tell them that I want this province. That will change how they interact with me. Whereas yet the Pope is also a diplomat. There's a couple of other types. I want to see if I could rant. There's one. Württemberg has a balanced leader. You can also have admin. Here we go. Nevers has an admin. There is one other type. You can have a colonizing-based AI, but obviously, first of all, that's really only going to show up for the nations that are going to colonize, and B, that doesn't matter to us. Like, we're not going to be in the colonizing race. That's not what we have going for us. At least not for North and South America. Maybe for Africa, but we'll cross that bridge depending how well we do down the line. So for the next probably couple of game years here, we don't actually have to do a lot. We're just going to increase... actually, we should embargo these guys eventually once we get the second claim. But then we can kind of just sit, accumulate some money, and try and get a few buildings in. So we're in our consolidation phase, effectively. Claim placed. We do have that claim now. We want to embargo them. Like that. And where do we want to send this diplomat? I don't know. Where do we want to put him? Where do we want to put him? I'll think about it. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today anyway. I'll probably let the clock run for a little bit because there's going to be a little bit of peace and quiet between episodes. So I will do that in the background. Psych. No, we'll keep going for a little bit longer. I just went to quickly grab some food. Having a chicken club. It was pretty tasty. Get some more influence in there. We don't have much of a choice. Trade dispute against the Knights. Don't care. We still have to work out what we're going to do with that diplomat, though. Just out of curiosity. Yeah, allied to the enemy. They would only just get involved. Siena don't actually like their ally all that much, which is interesting. The Knights will always get involved. Doesn't really matter. Unless they actually get, you know, taken out completely. It's just a non-negotiable. Epirus and Byzantium, interestingly, are at war. Not that it's going to matter. The Ottomans are just going to smash them all up. So, that's perfectly okay. What are we going to do with this diplomat? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Anybody who is close to being an ally of any significance. Milan itself, but I mean, they would be a good temporary ally against Venice, but long-term that would cause some issues. Bohemia is still at -11, but I don't think I'm going to get them. Because we have our friendship with them pretty much full. And Hungary would be a dangerous ally to pick. I'm tempted to do it in a way, though. You have too many diplomatic relations. Oh yeah, because they own Croatia, right? Which means we would end up in conflict with them, but they hate Venice. Alright, well, we'll increase friendship with them and see what comes of it, if anything. If it ends up being nothing, then we haven't really lost anything anyway, have we? That's perfectly alright. We got our first church in. We are making some money. We're not making an absolute fortune. We have a fort, this castle here, and we're going to keep it for now, but this will not be hanging around likely forever. It's on the wrong terrain. If we end up getting something like Treviso as one of ours, that would be a good location. Trent would be great because it's a mountain. Mountains tend to be the best locations for castles, but then on the flip side, they tend to have less buildings available, so each building is more valuable. So there's pros and cons. These really aren't getting anywhere, so we're not really going to have to worry about having a revolt, which is nice. And our manpower is pretty much back up to full. So, no, that's great. Lucca is allied to Genoa and Savoy. Savoy quite frequently ends up fighting with France, so I'm not too worried about that, but Genoa would be annoying to fight. And Florence itself is, yeah, it's allied to Milan. It's allied to Ragusa, but who cares? So we'll just kind of think about it as we go. We don't have to make any decisions right now anyway, we're just getting back up to full steam. But we now own 3 of these 5 provinces, which is awesome. So Ravenna and Parma, with Ravenna being our top priority, I think. Would Saxony get involved? They would, if we had 10 favours. Lüneburg would not. And Siena are allied to the enemy, so they definitely will not. So it would effectively be Saxony and ourselves versus Milan. Or against Venice, I should say. And that's not a great trade-off. Trent would re-ally with us. I'm pretty game for that, actually. I am going to let that happen. Because if we did end up at war with... Oh, we have to wait until 1464 because of the annulment. But if we could end up getting that, the only thing we'd have to be careful of is to check that they're still allied with Milan. Because we'd want that triangle against Venice. I guess while I'm here, that's only -9. I might actually be able to get Bohemia on side. It'll be close. And they won't do a royal marriage until there's an alliance. So we might not be able to get there, but let's try it out. I'd love for the Ottomans to have attacked Venice again, but they're not going to for at least 8 more years, which is unfortunate. Who else would possibly go after Venice? Hungary doesn't have a border with them yet, although they will soon, if they end up annexing Croatia. Bohemia doesn't have an ability to declare war on them. Milan does. We might be able to get in on Milan's war with them if they attack them. But I don't really want to ally Milan, although it could be an option. They would be very, very easy to ally. Screw it. We'll ally Milan for now, and then we're just going to get rid of that alliance in the future. How close are Hungary to allying? They probably will, if I want to, but then I don't want both of these guys to be allied, so I'm just going to say thanks but no thanks right now, Hungary. We'll possibly have a look at you down in the future. Let's get you allied, and then we're just going to use this diplomat like we did before to just go on ally look after mode, please. And then we can have our other diplomat back. We'll totally take a royal marriage. We don't need royal marriages in regards to increasing our chance of having an heir, which is a big perk of, you know, monarchies doing it. We don't need that benefit, but that's perfectly alright. So we still have to wait. Milan, I was wondering if they would possibly attack them even without the favors because they would want land, but apparently the answer to that is no. Austria has just made construction and development a little bit cheaper. That's pretty normal behavior for them. And I guess in the meantime, all I'll do is, because I have nothing else to use right now, I'm just going to try and make the Ottomans a little bit happier with us so they will just leave us alone. Not much else for that diplomat to do. Anyway, we are just going to be waiting for the time being. We do have our first event, so we didn't have to wait very long, did we? We must decide what we're going to do with Italy. So while the Kingdom of Italy is still formally part of the HRE, it has in many ways turned into a shadow kingdom, with the Italian states acting independently of the emperor. The failure of successive emperors to restore imperial authority in the region has also left large areas under the control of states that outright reject imperial authority. By now, the question for many Italian states is why they should allow the emperor any authority over their lands. Which is funny because we actually opted in to being involved with this. So this is the first HRE-based event, and there are 2 options. And you can actually see how many of the participants inside the HRE have voted for what. So most of the time, the majority will pick the first option. It's the time to abandon Italy. Holy Roman Emperor loses some prestige. They lose a lot of imperial authority, which actually doesn't matter because they just enacted. So they have practically none anyway. And if they do this, it means that parts of Italy break away. It doesn't mean that all of it breaks away. So what would happen is Brescia and Bergamo would no longer be parts of it. Which I don't really mind, actually, if that happens. That's not a big deal. You also have the options to rein them in. So if this is the option that ends up being picked, they get until 1490, so 30 game years, to rein in as many nations as possible. I've seen this picked before, but it's not common. We actually don't care if this happens. It does say the Emperor favors us, so I'm just going to say go for it. And then what will happen is, I'm going to leave this screen on temporarily. Just to explain what this looks like for the Imperial Map, the kind of magenta-y burgundy colour, that is the actual Emperor. Orange are the electors within the Empire. Blue is what's called a free city, so they get kind of bonuses, but they can only be a 1 province size. And then green is just the land that is owned by other members of the Holy Roman Emperor. If you see it in like little slashes like this in yellow or orange, it means that the nation that's holding this land isn't part of the Holy Roman Empire, but owns land that is part of the Holy Roman Empire. It's not a positive for the Empire. That's a bad thing. Apparently they have a brilliant government. That's a tiny amount of money, but I don't need the prestige, so all money is good money. So we're going to take that. And I think we'll play this along until we get an answer to our event. Usually the AI is pretty quick at deciding. You get this little sticker up here just to make sure that you're aware that it's still going on. You get until 1461, actually March the 21st, to do it. Interesting, it has the formatting in the Japanese style, where it goes year, month, day. But that's the way it is. We are going to use our 75 gold. We're going to get Ferrara a nice little tax bonus. I'm looking forward to when I can get rid of this castle, because it costs me a gold a month to maintain. The only reason why I haven't got rid of it is because my actual capital only has the basic fort. So it's nice to have another place to slow them down. But yes, we will hopefully very soon be not having a grassland castle. The only province that we have that doesn't have any type of building on it would actually be by far and away the best one for it. Go figure. But that's the way it goes. So we're into 1461. We're still doing great. We have reasonable money. We're up to our maximum manpower now. Venice still hasn't gone to war with anybody. Saxony would now join us because we must have 10 favours. But Milan is having a nightmare. They're 129 gold in debt. They don't like us very much, even though we're allies, because, you know, we've been at war in the past, so our trust is not at 50. We can spend favours to increase trust, which we might have to do, but I'm not doing it right now. And we have Poland allied to Danzig. So that's broken out of the Teutonic Order. I wish they'd picked a slightly different colour for Danzig. I have a hard time picking the blue and the grey apart. And there is the Shadow Kingdom event. So yeah, they did abandon Italy, or the parts of it that they said they're going to. So here is the actual event. So yeah, while the Kingdom of Italy is still formally part of the HRE, it has in many ways turned into a Shadow Kingdom. We've already heard this. And now we can choose. So we can say we don't want to be in the Empire. If we do that, Austria hates us. If we say that we want to be part of it, here's where this gets tricky. So we would lose prestige, and we would continue to have penalties to prestige, unrest, and stability cost. That last one won't matter as much because we're a republic. So for now, we're going to bite the bullet, stay in the Empire, even though it's going to suck temporarily, with the determination that I'm hoping that we can eat some neighbours pretty quickly and then leave the Holy Roman Empire. Because we want the protection. So everybody around us has left, as you may have noticed. But we have stuck. Like I said, long term, we are going to be leaving as well. But we want to be in it for now, so that, let's say, just as an example, let's say Florence attacks us. Austria should back us up. That's the theory. So we are going to stay for now. I'm going to do 1 month worth of tick, because I want to show you what the penalties are. So yeah, submission to the Emperor. So we get 3 more unrest. We lose a prestige every year, and we get 10% penalty on our stability cost. It's actually not that bad. The prestige hit is unfortunate, but we have the Italian Renaissance to balance it out. So it's not that bad, really. This is not a big deal. So we're just going to bite the bullet. And next episode, we'll see what we want to do with it going forward. So I appreciate your time. This is actually the end of the video this time, so give us a like if you want to. I appreciate it. If you want to check out what we're doing, I have my Facebook page as well, because you can't get notes out any other way when you're a small channel on YouTube. Yes, you could use other media, but you can't use YouTube anyway. So yes, have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care now. Thank you for watching the video.